Hello, hello. What's up, everybody? Should be locked and loaded. All right. Cool. Good evening again, everyone. I'm Dr. Joaquin Acosta, your trusted community pharmacist and CEO of Pharmtrue, and your host for tonight's exhilarating and enlightening episode of Know Your Pharmacist, guys. As we gather here, I'm thrilled to connect and collaborate with each of you, bridging the gap between generations from the latest on New Mexico's respiratory health to the transformative power of mindset with insights from Stanford's very own Alia Crum. Tonight, we're not just sharing information, we're embarking on a journey together, a journey of discovering, understanding, and empowerment. We'll brainstorm the ethics of AI, delve deep into the Harmony treatment algorithm for psychiatric wellness, and spotlight a heartwarming local charity initiative that's making waves in our community. As we dive deep into these captivating topics, guys, I want to extend my heartfelt gratitude to our sponsors, Pharmtrue, High Horse, the Tricom Alliance, and Vado Speedway Park. Their unwavering support allows us to bring you this excellent content week after week, day after day. So whether you're here for expert insights, the latest science, or just be part of this ever-growing community, I promise you an interesting, great, and creative time ahead, guys. Let's embark on this journey together, fostering both warmth and competence and making tonight's episode truly unforgettable. Without further ado, getting started, looking on what the New Mexico health officials are seeing when it comes to respiratory illnesses for the fall. So currently, as of this time last year, which is, it's worth noting, we are obviously less, COVID hospitalizations. This time last year, we were at 148 hospitalizations. This time this year, we're at 57 hospitalizations over this last week in this period of time. So where we're thinking about where we were again, reorienting ourselves, we are again not where we were even this year where we were last year. We made significant improvement, obviously, in COVID hospitalization since then. Still worthy to note and to keep in mind that hospitalizations are still happening. So what can we do? Get the new booster as it is starting to come out 6 months and above, and just be ready to go into the fall with the trifecta season coming out, guys, which we do know: flu, RSV, COVID. You heard it here first before you start coughing over there first, guys. That's what I'm saying for sure. So talking again about flu and the expectations for flu from our state of New Mexico. Well, according to the hospital epidemiologist at the University of New Mexico, Dr. Megan Brent, she doesn't have any predictions for flu outbreak and flu season for this year. However, in notation of last year, she mentioned that last year's season was more or less average, and it's hard to truly find out which one, what the flu shot strains are going to cover. But anybody 6 months or older should really be getting that flu vaccine, and the version this year is better tolerated by people with egg allergies, offering protection against the main flu viruses circulating in the community. So good things to note. Get the high dose version. You should really try to get it. If not, get the other adjunctive version, Fluad, Flu Block. Those are the other ones to get. They've got higher strengths. They elicit higher immune responses. And again, flu season, we're looking at this to start November time, in line with RSV season as well, right? So RSV here starts seeing more in the late fall in New Mexico. So this is according to Dr. Anna Duran, the chief medical officer at UNM Children's Hospital. So her projection this year, as far as what New Mexico is looking at, normal timeline for RSV, which usually starts around November and ends in early March. So, her notations for RSV prevention and, awareness. Well, the virus is highly contagious, can live on surfaces, Duran said. Symptoms include fever, cough, sometimes more serious issues such as dehydration. But again, nods to the new immunization to help prevent RSV in healthy children, as well as adults over the age of 60. Urge to go out and get it, but looking on your infant this season, the note here from the chief medical director over at UNM Children's Hospital says here, if your child is showing signs of difficulty breathing, isn't wanting to drink, or showing signs of dehydration, that's a great time to seek emergency medical care in the emergency room. So, already noted, but with RSV season, these are new things for new parents to just be extra aware of. And that's where we're at in our Pharmacist Frontline, guys. Cool. So I'm going to move on, guys, talking into our Tech Talk segment. Some interesting things happened in our government today, where we had the first ever apparently bipartisan artificial intelligence meeting. They called it a summit, and where the Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer organized a true private forum on Capitol Hill pushing to legislate artificial intelligence. They brought in guys like Elon Musk, Zuckerberg, who were able to be, tech moguls that had a opinion as to how it should be regulated and things like that. Elon Musk offered some ideas which were important because the concept of AI in healthcare and the benefits were brought up. And that's what I think is very important. But the regulation of how that all gets crossed and mismatched, and tangled up does need to truly, have its own department up in Capitol Hill that would help to designate and regulate how artificial intelligence could be regulated. Because as even Elon Musk said today, he was the one who said, it could be a pretty much pose a civilization, a risk. And because of that, we've got legislators that are now taking notes about, well, how can we prevent about, harming civilization with AI? So you got to have some boundaries and some oversight there. And where it really belongs in healthcare is its own other, topic, where you look at things like electronic health records that are so old school now, they literally cause more errors. So where are you enforcing some sort of minimum standard? And that minimum standard is going to get significantly better here in the next couple of years versus letting it get out of control or letting things go south. So those are all cool things to bring up and to talk about. I think it's good to see our government forum actually coming together and trying to get the views out there. But it's just going to take a lot. And I think even us here in our local jurisdictions, in our local states, smaller communities, you can look at where you can leverage AI and where maybe you may want to consider being careful because you don't want to go and be vulnerable to some sort of risk in whatever regard that might be. So all good to keep in mind. Perspectives in that industry should be for everyone, right? Not only the people that are experiencing, the output of the AI, but the people that are also putting in the input. So it's a conglomerative mix and very important to think about. Something to think about as I do move on to the next segment, guys, which is going to be Enlightenment Hour. Talking about the transformative power of mindset, which we've shown and touched on, I hope, a few good times in here already, which we're not done, touching on this just yet. So looking at this, I'm going to share my screen with you. Alia Crum from Stanford University, she did a really interesting little World Economic Forum talk. I'll just put that up for y'all. Let's play it.
Our minds aren't passive observers, simply perceiving reality as it is. Our minds actually change reality. In other words, the reality that we will experience tomorrow is in part a product of the mindsets we hold today. Our mindsets come from many places. Our mindsets about stress come from our upbringing and the words of encouragement we may or may not have heard. Our mindsets about what it means to be fit and beautiful are a product of the cultures that we live in. Every day, marketing and advertising shapes our mindsets about what is good, worthy, or exciting to eat. And influential doctors and health scientists have an uncanny authority to craft how healthy we expect ourselves to be. I study mindsets like these and how they impact our physical health. Thousands of clinical trials have shown that simply taking a sugar pill under the impression that it's a real medication can reduce not just our anxiety and pain, but lower our blood pressure, boost our immune system. Placebos work not just by making us say we feel better, but by triggering, activating a whole host of specific neurobiological effects. Holding the mindset that a pill or medication will relieve your anxiety, for example, activates the body's parasympathetic nervous system. The power, of course, is not in the sugar. The power comes from the social contexts that shape our mindsets in ways that activate our body's natural healing abilities. And the dirty secret of all clinical trials is that once the trial is said and done, the placebo effect remains, not as something to be subtracted or ignored, not as some magical or mysterious response to a sugar pill, but the psychological and social foundation, the support system on which the total effect of any drug or therapy is placed. These principles apply to health behaviors as well. Hotel room attendants, for example, get a substantial amount of physical activity throughout their day of work, but typically don't think of their work as good exercise. What we've found in our research is that a simple shift in mindset, from the mindset that their work is just work, to the mindset that their work is good exercise, produces physiological changes in the body. After just 4 weeks of adopting the mindset that their work is good exercise, hotel room attendants lost weight and lowered their blood pressure by 10 points. What this means is that objective health benefits, things like a healthy heart and a healthy weight, depend not just on what we're doing, but what we think about what we do. The same is true for food. In this study, we gave people the exact same milkshake, but with 2 very different labels. What we found is that when people thought they were in the mindset that the shake was indulgent and caloric, their body's hunger hormone ghrelin dropped at a 3-fold rate, speeding up their metabolism and leaving them feeling physiologically satiated. So how does this work? How do mindsets influence our health? Take these 2 mindsets about stress, for example. The truth is that both of these mindsets are possible, but the rub is that the mindsets we choose to hold influence the outcomes that will result. Mindsets change what we pay attention to. Mindsets change what we're motivated to do. Mindsets change how we feel and expect to feel. And mindsets change what our bodies are prepared to do. Through cascading effects on these psychological, behavioral, and physiological mechanisms, mindsets can create the reality that's implied. In other words, having the mindset that stress is enhancing, ironically, is what makes those enhancing effects more likely. So as influential leaders and decision makers, it's essential to recognize that mindsets are not peripheral, but central to health and behavior. If we truly want to tackle the diseases and crises of our time, we need to more effectively acknowledge and leverage the power of mindset. Thank you.
So, some interesting stuff, which I think you guys have seen a little bit of this stuff before, where we've shown the resources from the Stanford Mind and Body Lab where they have so many different, intervention materials for how to train, your mind to do things such as rethink stress, even help with exercise, and the way that, restaurants create labels to help people, have better options for the way that they choose their food, right? You notice that restaurants always, not always, that's a strong word, but restaurants do tend to make the less healthy food sound a little more delightful than the green beans, right? So there's true ways on how you can label those kinds of things, how you can word it, and we've talked about some of this stuff. But training your mind, whether you're a restaurateur, whether you are, just a normal human citizen or human being, that power of positivity and the power of positive thinking is truly changes whatever outcomes that you may be searching for. So that's an interesting, great way to stay in touch. I do appreciate Alia there and her little TED Talks. She talks about it, placebo and these things. We know that adherence to medication and these medications that have been FDA approved and research and everything do help. But the power of mindset and meditation in tune with all of that can really, really help. Lifestyle modifications, mindset, mental health. You tap in all that core, functionality of the human being. You get a very good outcome by making great decisions. So you look at, again, the edgy veggies, make sure the dish tastes good. Looking at things on how to name things, right? Naming raw and unseasoned Brussels sprouts spellbinding or bland. Eggplant exciting may backfire. So you don't want to truly deceive when you are trying to create new labels and things like that. You just want to have things that truly match what it could be, such as, again, things that we've talked about before, like broccoli. If you have an edgy label and you just make sure, your ingredients are matching. Use more adjectives. Ultimate, char grilled, asparagus. What are you doing? Grilling it with salt and pepper. Come on. Just make it sound delicious. People will want it. Choose the delicious options. Make it sound delicious in your mind. Go and pick recipes that sound delicious and they can be there. So, in your approach, whether it's a lifestyle modifications where you want to take down your systolic blood pressure as shown below in that video earlier, it's a very interesting situation. And that's not telling somebody to pick your religion for you or do anything like that. That's just that power of that mental programming of how you are going to sense, perceive, and output whatever that may be in the world. So there's a lot of power between input and the response, and that part is controllable. But willpower, control, all those things, a lot harder than most people give them credit for. And that's your Enlightenment Hour for you. All right, so moving on, Herbal Wellness Corner. Want to talk about the Harmony treatment algorithm. And this is shout out again to Brian Crum up there in, it's going to pop up, all funky. But yes, Brian Crum up in Albuquerque. Nurse practitioner, been on the medical board for cannabis law since it ever began and has done a lot of good research and a lot for the industry. But this is something that I thought he came up with that is just absolutely fantastic. So for those of you that are using medical cannabis or maybe considering medical cannabis, a lot of people, whether they think about it or not, do use cannabis for that right, relaxation or meditation meditative kind of state of, not necessarily trance or anything like that, but where you look at somebody looking to relax, you're trying to ease thoughts and things, right, when that comes to psychiatric and mental health. So, he calls it PTSD, and granted, that can be a wide range of factors there. But where Brian Crum is looking at cannabis and the therapeutic use for PTSD and having an algorithm of, supplements to use in addition to the cannabis therapy, it's a very interesting little blend of things that he does here, because this is, medical cannabis, and he's been working on this again since 2015. So where you're looking at his PTSD, source, he's looking at dysfunction of the endocannabinoid system. So where signaling there is not functioning properly, he's saying, psychiatric disorders can happen. And where his unique therapeutic effects for cannabis in treating PTSD is showing with the, harmony treatment algorithm, and this is the way he balances it. So different strains, different effects for people. And if you have PTSD, you may be looking for, products with CBD rich strains or THC strains, right? You never know what somebody may specifically need, but THC may exacerbate the amount of anxiety that can be partaking. As you can see on the screen here, most of his PTSD patients find that indicas are better for anxiety and sleep. Kush strains also often well liked among PTSD patients. So, whatever sort of Kush based lineage strain, and, things like, I could think of banana Kush, OG Kush. There's, all kinds of different Kush strains that might be indica hybrids, indica dominant hybrids. Here, according to Brian Crum, often liked among PTSD patients. And your daytime theoretically should be the sativas, if you can identify those sativa heavy strains. But if you're having PTSD and you are having issues with anxiety during the day, that sativa strain theoretically can exacerbate the anxiety with an energizing type of effect. CBD only products for pain, sleep, depression, or seizures, but oftentimes don't seem to be very effective for hyperarousal type anxiety or suicidality. Most of his patients prefer a higher THC content to help reduce their hyperarousal symptoms and to help them remain in the present rather than dwelling on the past or stressing about the future. Cautions with sativas because, again, like we talked about, more likely to cause anxiety, paranoia. Many chronic pain patients report that mixing a high CBD strain with a high THC strain works better than any individual strain. This is likely due to differences not only in cannabinoid profiles, but also because of the interplay of various terpenoids and flavonoids found in these strains. So again, as we already know, start low and go slow. PTSD and his protocol, starting slow, the inhaled route of administration offers the most rapid onset of effects. So where you need those acute relaxation effects, 1 to 2 puffs every 10 to 15 minutes, if no previous use, until symptoms reduce. Consider using a vaporizer to reduce pulmonary risks. So again, a vaporizer is going to be much better on the lungs than smoking. And truly, there's like only one vaporizer on the market, which is called the Volcano Vaporizer, and everything else is probably not even worth the money, even if it's saving money, truly, which is weird, but hopefully that changes. So caution with edibles, it could be 2 to 6 hours to reach plasma levels and inconsistent absorption in the GI tract. We try to balance this by having, again, a good quality edible that's consistently made, taking it with a high-fat meal each and every single time, so you have consistent digestion and the most bioavailability, because you have to take it with fat for it to be truly absorbed properly. And that's where those inconsistent absorption levels, when product selection and with or without food, and with or without fatty food comes into question, it's very hard to catch any sort of anecdotal consistency there. So again, edibles can be good, where I like the one-to-ones and things like that as a sustained release, where you use, theoretically, inhaled for breakthrough. Same thing with opioids. But again, everybody's going to need to find their dose, start low and go slow. Tinctures, candies absorbed through, such as the oral mucosa, where it's talking about sublingual, allow more rapid onset of effects rather than swallowing, about 45 minutes still. So, according to Brian Crum's research, he says oral route converts THC into a more sedating form, which can provide better sleep and reduction of nightmares. See, I've never seen anything else supporting this, but this is an interesting, thing. And I'm not going to call anybody out or not. I just have not seen the bioavailability of the absorption of how it's, absorbed under the tongue versus digested, making it more sedating. But it could be true. So these are reports, that he's probably observed over a long period of time. So very interesting to think, if you think about tinctures and THC tinctures for sleep, may be very interesting. I've seen success with actually our CBD tinctures, our high strength CBD tinctures for sleep. People really do good with those. Anyways, look in there, use caution with legal CBD only preparations. There may be significant risk of heavy metal contamination and solvent contamination from CBD sourced in industrial hemp, Eastern Europe and China. So, yes, you do want to always know your source and things like that. It's very hard to know nowadays, but at the same time, I'm not going to go through and talk to people about looking at certificates of analysis and thinking like that. Brands are starting to come to that point of, who's good and who's not. Some stores you can walk into and the vibe on the products, right? So trust your instincts there, your intuition for sure. Anyways, interestingly enough, for your alternative dosage form, rectal route of administration offers consistent absorption and offers an alternative unable to tolerate the other routes. So can be used for people. There are people who use suppositories, and I found that more. I've learned that more now rather than initially. Like initially I thought suppositories were a very promising thing. I didn't think people use them, but then the people that use them all are going to the same place to buy them or whatever that might be. But there are pockets of people that do use suppositories, and that really, that's that breakthrough, absorption for intense sciatica, or things like that. But it works for some people, for sure. Not gonna lie, still so cool. So still going through this Harmony treatment algorithm, guys, for PTSD. Step 2, eating healthy diet, plenty of vegetables, organic soy, wheat, and corn, eliminating gluten, thinking about that, moving, get exercise. Regular exercise helps support endocannabinoid function. Step 4, fish oil. So, I think this is important where you do look at omega-3s, your fatty acid chains that do help. Cannabis, again, is lipophilic. It loves fats. So it's going to be better absorbed with fats. You do want to have the right amount of healthy fats in your body. That's going to help also, your endocannabinoid function there. So where that is, begin fish oil, 2,000 to 4,000 milligrams a day, high EPA, DHA. Omega-3 is shown to help with depression, mood stabilization, and PTSD, building blocks for endocannabinoids, and help stabilize the function of the endocannabinoid system. Also, vitamin E, 400 IUs daily. Vitamin E is depleted by omega-3s, and adding vitamin E gives a boost to the efficacy of omega-3s and help modulate the endocannabinoid system. Probiotics. And they've even got, more probiotic drinks now on the market than ever. So truly, if you are looking at the overall situation of, hey, I'm trying to undo my PTSD, truly consider that gut health, and you can look at it for other sources. But again, that gut brain, there's something between the gut brain connection there. And you look at that, might as well take billions of probiotics, right? Get that 5 billion unit probiotic and everything. It's not bad. Not bad. Go try it for a little while, get some restorative effects. And if you can afford it, I would definitely say try to stay on it. And especially if you can adhere to it too. So, as someone who has been off and on probiotics my whole life, I cannot sit here and say I'm like the perfect example either. So I know how hard that kind of stuff is, but where you're looking at billions of cultures and really trying to get your endocannabinoid system to the optimal point, really consider it. Even if you're like, hey, I'm going to do this for a couple months, commit to it. Next, of course, mindful awareness, breathing. His book of recommendation, A New Earth by Eckhart Tolle. Reducing stress in general helps to give the endocannabinoid system a rest, helps to, balance activations in the area of brains involved in PTSD responses, which have high concentrations of endocannabinoid receptors. And I'd love to have, nurse practitioner Crum on here someday. He is the guy. This is his algorithm. Those that might be suffering with PTSD, or if it kind of shows that this could be a part of things, I really do consider always recommending over the Harmony treatment algorithm. Again, vitamin D, 5,000 IUs there. Autoimmune disorders can help support CB2 receptor function. Vitamins D supplementation is generally safe and usually pretty good. And we'll talk about a little bit more even in our Men's Health Minute, showing a study of multivitamin and mineral absorptions, and just pretty much kind of debunking whether or not, does this get absorbed? Yes, it does. Moral of the story, you just got to make sure your fat soluble vitamins are being taken with fat, and it can help supplement nutrients. You just want to make sure you always hit the sweet spots. 5,000 IUs daily here in the D3, magnesium citrate. And again, I think this just went on a big recall, and I'm not sure if it's back, but otherwise, I recommend just Magox, like magnesium oxide, Magox 400. Magnesium is a great supplement. On top of this, turmeric, 500 milligrams of black pepper, inflammatory pain, used to treat pain and inflammation. Black pepper augments the effects of turmeric. They do need to be taken together. So again, make sure your turmeric does have black pepper in it. Both act at the cannabinoid receptors to reduce pain and inflammation. Consider terry tart juice. Consider 5-HTP, precursor to both serotonin and melatonin. Unlike pharmaceutical antidepressants, 5-HTP increases brain levels of serotonin. If no benefit after 2 months, increase to 200 milligrams at bedtime. Can increase dose to 300 milligrams at bedtime after 2 additional months if no adequate response. But again, don't start jumping into any new algorithms without talking to your doctor first. You didn't just hear it here and just jump in, okay? Okay. Setting that straight. Again, folic acid depletion can be happened by UV radiation and sunlight. Should you, be taking it if you have fair skin and spend a lot of time in the sun and eat a diet lacking in green vegetables? Yes, you should be. That's probably most of us. So that's that Harmony treatment algorithm, and it's very, very unique. I like it. Brian Crum's out of Albuquerque, so he's a New Mexican as well, and he's come up to his whole situation here. According to him, PTSD does not respond well to any pharmaceutical treatments, and because pharmaceuticals may cause significant unwanted changes to brain structure and function, the Harmony program focuses on restoring balance to the body's own regulatory mechanisms in order to restore homeostasis to the dysfunctional neurobiological processes involved in the etiology of PTSD. These techniques have been scientifically shown to decrease depression, anxiety, promote mood stabilization, and to help decrease symptoms commonly associated with every symptom cluster of PTSD. And his practice methods have proven far safer and more effective than any available pharmaceutical or combination for treating PTSD. Dysfunction of endocannabinoid system signaling is involved in every symptom cluster of PTSD. So according to Brian Crum, passionate about restoring the balance to endocannabinoid function and rapidly reducing, suicidality of PTSD, things that, it's Suicide Awareness Month. New Mexico we are bad on the suicide poll as well. And, where can cannabis perhaps be an intervention to? All things to consider. So, capiche. Moving on. Fun. Herbal Wellness Corner brought to you guys by High Horse Cannabis Company. Writing history, not just reading it. So, spotlighting out for our community spotlight, everybody supporting La Casa. La Casa Inc. is trying to raise some money for their 32nd annual Bazaar, and I don't want to mispronounce it, but I do appreciate that one of my viewers was able to tag me in this, and I will make sure to post the event in the chat, and the proceeds would go to La Casa here in town, which helps to fight domestic violence. And yeah, I think there's still a little time, and they're going to be collecting all kinds of donations and sponsorships. So the Holiday Bazaar, again, is a 3-day shopping event featuring handmade goods by artists, artisans, and crafters. All proceeds from the Holiday Bazaar benefits La Casa, a nonprofit organization providing domestic violence prevention, awareness, advocacy services, and emergency shelter. So you can get some Christmas shopping done, support a great cause, participate in raffle prizes, photo opportunities, kids booth, kids 12 and under getting free 100 booths to shop from. So some shopping, Christmas shopping, things like that, help local community out, nonprofits, all good. Last things last, Men's Health Minute, guys. Talking about, again, debunking the myths of, hey, is it worth my time to take a multivitamin? Well, just showing a little study here, the good and the bad, the ugly. Just kidding. So let's see. Boom, boom. Evolving role of multivitamin, multivitamin support use among adults in age and personalized nutrition. So, are they working? Do they, what is the role of vitamins? Well, according to the World Health Organization, this is men and women, and I know it's our Men's Health Minute, but estimated over 2 billion people worldwide experience deficiencies in the intake of essential nutrients, vitamins, and minerals. In the United States, a number of shortfall nutrients have been identified in the general population by the Dietary Guidelines Advisory Committee to the U.S. Departments of Health and Human Services and Agriculture, which include vitamins A, C, D, E, choline, calcium, magnesium, iron, potassium. Further, deficiencies in calcium, potassium, dietary fiber, and vitamin D are considered to be of public health concern based on their demonstrated role in health maintenance combined with their known low intake levels. Indeed, consistent with earlier reports, a recent analysis of National Health and Nutrition Examination Survey data indicates that a substantial number of individuals have intakes of these nutrients from dietary sources that fall below the estimated average requirements. These dietary shortfalls occur despite the wide use of dietary supplements. However, dietary supplements are often used by individuals who already have nutrient-rich diets. In particular, among older women, multiple supplements can be used, which increase the potential for older supplementation and excessive nutrient intake. So yes, you can be taking too many vitamins, right? Like you can overdo it. So there are different people that are more vulnerable to overdoing it, that are more people to underdoing it. But the interesting part is what the data came out to here is I'm going to show it right here. The use of multivitamin and multivitamin supplements and using them has been shown to reduce the prevalence of inadequate micronutrient intakes below the EAR and status. Exceeding the UL, however, should be considered in vulnerable subgroups such as children and older adults who are already taking multiple dietary supplements. So again, those who are already taking that, those who might, be going extra hard on the supplement realm, whatever that might be. But high dietary intakes from supplements with certain nutrients, in particular folic acids, may have negative health outcomes, such as increasing the progression of precancerous lesions and tumors. Nutrigenomic approaches should provide new insights in the pursuit of providing personalized nutrition as ongoing research continues to elucidate the role of nutrition and gene expression in disease. So, where you probably override and look at the risk benefit of, hey, do vitamins make my tumors grow, or do vitamins actually help me get some of those micronutrients that I wouldn't have been eating otherwise? The latter is more true. So again, multivitamins, they are worth it. Take it. Make sure you have food in your stomach. Don't take them on an empty stomach, but taking those once a day, always omega-3s in your Men's Health Minute will be highly recommended. Multivitamin and omega-3 will get a lot of guys right on track in a lot of places there. So that's our Men's Health Minute. But again, they work. Sometimes they work a little too good. Children, older women, those are some of the vulnerable subgroups when it comes to it. But again, it can be multiple different subgroups there. But men are probably in your subgroup that take the least amount of multivitamins. So, and the things that we can do to start catching up to the women in life expectancy, let's start adding those things and some fish oil on there as well. All right, guys, we'll see you tomorrow. Hope everybody